Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcasts with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost Here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Future Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Juliette Lamar. I have with us joining us today Peter Grant. He is the CEO and founder at Safesite Solutions. Welcome, Peter.
Hello, Juliette. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm very intrigued by your company. So why don't you give us a little insight into Safesite?
Sure. So at its core, Safesite is, our mission is to really reduce the workplace injuries and incidents in high-risk environments. And we do that primarily through the Safesite safety management platform, which not only facilitates, the minimum compliance activities mandated by OSHA within these high-risk environments, but it also allows us to deliver engagement strategies and access every single worker's workflow of activity throughout the day to insert as much safety activity and as much safety engagement as possible back into the safety culture of the company. And so we do that through our mobile app that's used out in the field to complete safety activities, and our desktop platform, which allows managers to view safety compliance, customize and export safety reports, but also initiate safety campaigns which drive that engagement down at the front line. And I guess to expand upon that a little bit more, we also, our business model is not just providing the solution to the industry. We're really, we've been very creative in the ways that we look at deploying our platform to these companies. We understand that safety can be a necessary evil, and it's not always doesn't always have a budget that's allocated towards it. But there is always workers' compensation insurance, which is mandated and which is a cost to these companies, particularly if they have a lot of incidents. And so we are an underwriter of workers' compensation insurance, and we bundle the safety technology with those policies so customers can actually, when they engage in the platform and when they demonstrate within the insurance relationship that they are on top of their safety, they have a strong safety culture, they can actually reduce their workers' compensation costs.
And I believe that you have listed here that you can also bring down incidents by up to 57%.
Yeah, that's right. So we're very proud of that. The incident frequency rate is obviously something that insurers look at, that employers look at, and everyone really should be aware of, particularly in the safety and risk environments. 57%, we had a third-party actuarial study completed on 3 million man-hours worked underneath the Safesite platform, obviously controlling for activities and risk of activities. And we were able to demonstrate a 57% reduction in incident frequency, and we're very proud of that.
I mean, that's amazing. It's a really, really strong number. Let's jump into, some of the really intricate features of the app that you would use in the field and the stuff that you would use in the office, kind of giving us, a little breakdown.
Sure, absolutely. And I guess for us, it's always a balance between, the latest technologies that are available to our space. There's a lot of IoT devices and wearable devices that can deliver really fantastic information about workplace risk and, the safety profile of an individual. But we're also aware that the industry is not necessarily ready for that technology to be deployed. And so and not necessarily ready to pay for it yet, even under an insurance policy that might subsidize it. So we're very aware to pace out the technology to our customers, and we want to make sure that we're growing in terms of technical capability with the industry and not necessarily reaching too far ahead to isolate them or, to a point where they're not going to pay for it or accept it within their culture. So I guess to talk specifically about how our customers interact with the Safesite platform. As I mentioned, they enter their safety compliance activity into the mobile application, and that's something as simple as a safety observation, whether it's positive or negative. We capture a photo. You can load up a photo from your phone's library. They tag the photo and they can mark up that photo. and that goes into the platform, and in real time it can be viewed by safety managers, at the head office or at the regional office, so they can see in real time what sort of hazards and what sort of inspections and what sort of equipment are giving them problem. And over time, you start to get some trends in terms of which areas are most risky, which types of hazards are presenting themselves at the administration level or regional level. And so interacting with the mobile app, the worker will also receive notifications based off activities that they're responsible for, or hazards that they need to close out, or inspections that they're expected to complete within that week. And so when the teams go out and start work for the day, they open up the Safesite app, and it'll show them action cards for what they have to, what they're expected to complete. And it's as simple as clicking on that action card, completing the safety activity, and then those reports are then reviewed. And so in the background, we're obviously, we're looking at all of this information, and we run an algorithm on top of all of this safety data that's collected out in the field. The algorithm is geared towards developing a really strong understanding of the safety culture and safety engagement within that team. We want to boil that down to an individual score for the company, right? So an A, B, C, or D. So it's really easy to track what your company's culture is at without having to digest, all of this information across your entire enterprise. And so to develop that score, we look at things like, how long is a hazard open? How many people were involved in the closure of that hazard? If you're showing good communication with the subcontractors or with your general contractor or other teams on the project, that's a really good indication of strong safety communication, and that positively influences the score. And if you're raising hazards and observations off the top of an inspection rather than just pencil whipping it, that's a really good indication of people taking safety seriously. And so those types of it's really hard to gamify the system, because the more hazards you raise, the more your safety score can increase, because it just demonstrates that you are on top of that in terms of safety. And that, when you look at the philosophy of risk management and incident reduction, it's not just meeting compliance. It's really the engagement and getting people to think about completing tasks in the safest possible manner and not cutting corners between those mandated safety activities and compliance. And so everything we boil up to that Safesite risk score allows us to give that, allows us to have leading indicators on the risk profile of a company. And at Safesite, we actually have safety coaches that work with every single company to both onboard the company and, resource any training materials or materials they may need to onboard into the Safesite framework. But they also help the relevant administrator interpret the Safesite score and interpret the data that's coming through, and then help them work on a safety success plan to improve the engagement within that organization as well. So I hope that gives you a summary of, a lot of the interactions with different parts of not only the software, but the Safesite service as well.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's got a very easy to use platform. And when people are out, in the workplace, in these high-risk workplaces, the last thing they want to have to be worrying about is how they're getting their data, how they're logging their activities and all that. And from what I can see here online, the platform looks really simple. And it looks like it's something that you can do and not have to be worried about, the learning curve or anything. It could just be very simple, very easy to use for these people.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, we're very, very aware of not only the work environments, but also, your typical user out in the field. They don't necessarily have time to pull out their phone and use applications, and they're not always the most tech savvy. Let's face it. And so, I've got a construction background. I've worked in these environments. A lot of my team has worked in these environments, and we really understand this environment and what type of user interface is going to be most successful as well. So, yeah, we spend a lot of time in the mobile application making it simple and intuitive and easy to use. But then, obviously, that comes at the expense of functionality. So as you step through the three different user types, we've got Field Lite, Field Pro, and then Administrator. And as you step through those different user types, you expect more functionality, and obviously with that comes a little bit more complexity of the interface and the application to the point where that they can get any of the information or the trend lines or the leading indicators that they need.
And that is fantastic. So yeah, give us a little bit of more insight into your background and kind of what brought you to found this company.
Sure. So as I mentioned, my background is construction. I was a civil engineer working in commercial construction project management back in Australia, working on a lot of large buildings. I did some civil infrastructure projects as well. And we're a tier 1 company, and we were still having a lot of injuries and unfortunately some deaths in the workplace, which really stick with you. And, that was compounded by the fact that one of my good friends was also killed unfortunately in a workplace accident. And so looking around at these environments, we've got all the resources in the world, and we've got safety processes that are there, but they're paper-based, they're ineffective, they're inefficient, and frankly, they're not working. Every single injury or death in these environments is completely preventable if the right systems and processes are followed. And so we saw, at the time, this is about four years ago, we saw that iPads and iPad minis were becoming a lot more prevalent within these environments. And so we saw the opportunity to actually develop what at that time we thought was just going to be a simple inspection application to help teams complete their safety inspections on a weekly basis and notify relevant parties. That was about it. And it really took off on the projects that I was in and the local company. It allowed us to really dive deeper into the market, the industry, and realize that we have an opportunity to make a business here that makes a real difference. And this was back in Australia still, and we were accepted into an accelerator there, which exposed us to how the international markets, the US market, and they really educate us on how we can really grow this company. And we always wanted to be in the US market. We found that without any marketing over here, about 80% of our downloads are coming from the US. And over here, it's a much more aggressive culture in terms of technology adoption. There's a lot more first-to-market movers and a lot more competition, frankly. And so we decided very early on that the US marketplace is where we want to be focusing our activities, and we've been here for about 3 years. We've got 3,500 companies on platform now using it every day to improve their compliance activities, but more importantly, reduce their frequency of incidents.
That's fantastic, and I'm so sorry to hear about your friend.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very unfortunate. It's not a day goes past we don't think about him, and it really drives us to ensure that it doesn't happen again. They're all completely preventable,
Absolutely.
These incidents. Yeah.
And that's it's such a strong motivator because you see these things happen, you have personal experience with them, and you think to yourself, this could have been avoided. And this is a fantastic step in that direction with what you're doing here. What are you striving for in the future for Safesite? What are some of the things that you would like to see happening in the next 3 years?
Sure. So we're really excited about the next year and a half's growth, particularly as we work with our insurance partners to grow the distribution channels of the Safesite platform. That really allows us to not only deploy the platform and improve, the safety performance in these environments, but it also allows us to capture more data and train our risk scoring models to be, with a machine learning process that will more accurately determine where and when, an incident is going to occur, and allows us to step in through our safety coaching and present mitigating strategies to remove that risk or reduce the risk profile and prevent an incident from occurring. So that is an education process of our algorithms over time, and we are just getting better and better at it. But along with not, capturing and digesting the data we collect, we're also launching pilots with IoT and wearable partners that we believe can provide critical insights to risk profile in specific environments. And, with our insurance business model, we'll be able to subsidize the cost and deployment of these devices so that they can be, the ROI is realized at the insurance level rather than the customer having to front the costs for these expensive devices and their deployment. And so there's obviously a lot of workflow around integrating not just that process, but also, the data, how that flows and how it's interpreted and how that can flow on to direct insurance savings. Solidifying that process is, what is on our immediate horizon. And I guess the thing that excites us most about that is that we can with those pieces of the puzzle put together, we really have a chance to drive down incident frequency more than that 57%, which, as I mentioned, is really the mission of the company.
No, absolutely. And I love how you mention, learning and knowledge. And the more people know about this and realize how you can prevent it and they can understand that there is a solution out there, just education is a huge factor. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say our tagline is "Smart Safety Made Easy," and as I said, safety is often seen as a necessary evil, but we provide a very cheap, cost-effective solution that doesn't take time to actually engage in safety. It takes less than 5 minutes a day if you do it correctly, and that gets everyone on your team compliant and gets them thinking about safety. It's so easy to do. A lot of companies just don't realize that the friction to adopt these and deploy these systems has really been reduced with systems like Safesite.
It's so sad that you have to say, it's a necessary evil, and you even have to prove to people that they should spend money on this. It should be a no-brainer because it is people's lives. Even if they're not, losing their life, they could have a debilitating injury or whatnot. So companies just need to get on board.
Yeah, that's right.
Where can people, learn more about this, perhaps via demo or be able to experience, the product for themselves?
Yeah, the best place to get some more information is safesitehq.com. And you can read a bit more about our product and our offering there. And you can, with our little widget down the bottom right, we'll have one of our safety success champs respond to you if you would like a demo of the system. We often run pilots to make sure that there's a good fit both ways with the deployments of the platform. And we've got really, friendly sales and product specialists that can help you figure out, what type of deployment you want and what that partnership can look like with Safesite.
Absolutely. And the website is safesitehq.com, correct?
That's correct.
Wonderful. Peter, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here today on Future Tech Podcast and really share your heart-touching story and bringing a light to this industry and the problems that you're facing.
Thanks, Juliet. Happy to be here.
That is Peter Grant. He's the CEO and founder at Safesite Solutions. That's safesitehq.com. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been Juliet Lamar with Future Tech Podcast.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.